we are back into a session I can't do in Japanese, and I really have to apologize again. We talked about the future, we talked about innovative things with our panel just before. We're gonna go back into things that are a bit more down to earth, which is basically how to convince your boss or your CFO or all the other people around you that investing on AI is the right thing to do. Before we jump into that, actually, let's take a step back on what has happened last year. We could almost tell ourselves that last year was the first year of AI, which would be very untrue, but for the massive volume of people who never use AI, who never feel they use AI on a day-to-day basis, the arrival of ChatGPT was a massive revolution. Even my 5-year-old knows what ChatGPT is. My 8-year-old, that's scary, is asking, can I ask ChatGPT if I want to do that research? That's scary. But all jokes aside, we can't deny the fact that we have moved from a stage where AI was a domain of specialists, a bit obscure, with complex notions coming out of deep learning, typically. No one has ever touched deep learning, apart from the experts who know what it's about. ChatGPT has completely changed that. And so, at a moment in time where there has been this massive arrival of eased access to AI, so comes the moment where AI is playing a different game in the strategic agendas of organizations. Most organizations invested in data and AI 10 years ago, some very successfully, some others less, let's face it. And we were getting to a moment where there were a bit more questions around, is this the right thing to do? Is it more complicated? How do we make the right choices of investment and so on? Gen AI is changing the game a bit because it is so visible to the grand public. It opens the space to a different type of productivity and enhancement to business processes, that it has changed the focus at the top level. Now we can ask ourselves the questions around, does it mean anything different from you on a day-to-day basis? Because on a day-to-day basis, when you are doing your jobs as data practitioners, AI practitioners, as decision makers, as people in IT who are equipping your organizations with the right type of setup, is it changing something as to what you have to consider when you're building your business cases? I'm sure you all love your jobs. I like my job. But we do it for a certain purpose. We do it because we believe that at the end of the journey, there are some tangible results and return on investments for the organizations we work for. So, I'm not going to bore you with numbers on the massive opportunity that is tied to AI and Gen AI. It counts in trillions, and you can have easy access to all the right and meaningful studies done by consulting firms. I think now is the moment to have a slightly different conversation, which is, I am in this room because I have this conviction. I am in this room because my job in my organization is actually to make this happen. How do I make sure that I build the right type of understanding on my return of AI investments so that I just not start, but I engage into a systemic move? There are different ways of looking at returns on AI, and there are different ways of considering what value is about. One way of looking at things is to consider that in organizations, you have people who need to interact with data. These people can be specialists, data experts, data scientists, data engineers, AI engineers, but they can also be other types of people. Actuaries, if we have people from insurance around. People in the engineering and manufacturing are all people who interact with data, who do models, and who need productivity when they do this. So one way of looking at your return on AI investments is actually to look around how effective is your AI strategy? Is it effective for the people building? So does it bring more speed and agility? Is it effective from an IT cost standpoint? Are you building something that is future-proof, that is lowering the total cost of investment? I mentioned the word TCO when I was presenting our own product directions. It is something we continuously have in line of sight. Are you making sure that doing controls, doing AI governance is embedded enough, is built in so that it doesn't become an additional burden? So we're talking about platform setup gains. On the other side, we have to keep in line of sight that it's very good for people to be effective, but they have to be effective for the right type of outcomes. So talking about use case gains is absolutely critical. And I think, again, going back to ChatGPT, if I look at my 5-year-old, trust me, who wouldn't understand those slides, the only thing he thinks about is, what is this for? Right now, organizations need to show impact. They need to say how it's going to make them different in the long run. Some of our customers make very strong bets on AI today because they believe that it's going to make their brands resonate differently. It's going to attract different people. It's going to attract different customers. It's going to make them more successful when it comes to the revenues they will generate. Others are very, very focused on how it will make them efficient. And efficient means we all operate with legacy, especially in large historical organizations. They all have a past. You all operate with systems that could be considered as very ineffective just because they probably have been built over the past 100 years. That's normal. It's true that the arrival of AI, of Gen AI, opens an opportunity to significantly rethink, reinvent, reindustrialize, shift processes that had a given cost, and to make cost reduction happen. So talking about use case gains in a moment where there's visibility of AI initiative is all the more so important to be able to demonstrate the right type of results and the right type of next steps. If I can give you an example, one of our customers, actually APG-based, Australia-based to be quite specific, we have seen them move from, I think, 3 users initially a few years ago, up to 800 users in a matter of 3 or 4 years. And that's a lot when you think about it. And it's a company of 12,000 people, so that's like a lot. Are these 1,800 users doing all hyper-innovative things on a day-to-day basis? I'd love to tell you this. It's not the case. A lot of these users are actually doing day-to-day reindustrialization, operational efficiency-focused use cases that are bringing these incremental, little added value things, which will make their business much more efficient over time. You never put this in an annual report. That's boring as hell. In your annual report, you want to talk about what makes the impact. The reason why they moved from these few users to these 800 users is that as part of all the use cases they have done one focused on the investment signals they need to make their trading decisions that in 1 year has generated 15 million of P&L. The fact that they were able to measure this, the fact that they were able to report on this has created the trust, which means that after that, they're able to make the bet on all the speed, the agility, etc., etc., etc. So it means that in your jobs, probably not all of you are marketers by heart, and that's fine. Keeping in mind that there's a portion of storytelling to have in mind is important. Not everyone will understand what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's okay. People are going to be investing in what you do because they trust that it is delivering the right type of outcomes. There is a notion of storytelling that is not to be applied to every single use case, but that needs to be applied with those use cases that make a transformative impact on your business model, those that have an impact on your key processes. It can be improving anti-money laundering in a bank. It can be revisiting how you assess environmental risk in an insurance company. It can be how well you manage your supply chain inefficiencies if you're in manufacturing. And having the right type of value reported. And this is going to be an anchor stone for building the trust that will then embark more people in this, in trusting that whatever you're doing with ML, with Gen AI, with whatever, is bringing the right type of outcome. Second topic, we talked about it since the beginning of the day. We firmly believe at Dataiku that AI can't be successful at scale if we limit it to a few people. It's a collective journey with people who have different roles to play. So it also means that the enablement side is absolutely critical. There needs to be a portion of people deciding that they need to dedicate a bit of time in learning new data practices, in becoming a bit better in data management and governance, usually. Let's not ignore that. And in themselves, starting to contribute and to build. The notion of enablement is very important. Similarly, if you are today at this moment, where you have delivered a number of first things, and you know that the path forward is democratization, you know that in order to use the data of your organization, you need to get more people in the room. Showing the right type of outcomes, showing that it can be tangible in terms of impact, showing also sometimes that just it will make people's job more effective, more efficient, is a key part of any form of enablement strategy. Technology in the way. So last but not least, we worked on these topics of value for a pretty long time at Dataiku. We have a team that is specialized in it and that can support customers as they think through the right framework that we put in place. We're also looking at building more value tracking in our platform itself to facilitate this move. I'll be completely honest, on the product side, we've struggled a bit because use cases inherently are quite unique. There's always a different way of telling the story, and this is a good illustration of this. Talking about the man-hour savings from manual processes is one way of looking at customer email classification. If we take Etihad's example, probably it's also benefiting customer satisfaction at the end of the chain. How do you measure customer satisfaction? Can be a complex notion. What we want to insist on in any case is that you've heard about the tech, you've heard about what customers are doing, you've heard about the vision. It will be hard to convince and to embark people if you do not put value, if you do not put outcomes at the center as one of the key dimensions of your strategy. We also, the reason why we also invest in first doing these sessions, having this team and also collecting feedback is of course to explain that our technology is actually working, but I think also more importantly to be able to inspire you on what could be coming next. There's tremendous benefit in that type of sharing and that type of vision motion. So to wrap things up, be it if you are today if you are at the very early beginning of your journey, or if you are more advanced into it, making sure that you don't ignore this notion of return on AI is absolutely critical to capture the right type of attention and also to make sure that at the end of the day, it's going to create the trust in the benefits of your initiative. We can definitely support you around that. And more importantly, this is only the beginning of the journey in Japan. A few years ago, when I started working on the Japan setup, we had 2-3 customers here or there, very, very small. Last year when I came for my annual visit, I saw a number of people, but I can tell you, we would never have been able to gather such of an impressive audience. Next year, that room is going to be too small. Good news also is next year, you will be on stage to tell your story. We need also that collective momentum to get started because it's through that that will make that return on AI investment happen. Thanks everyone, and I will pass the mic back to Yutaka-san.